Good afternoon. It's a wonderful Tuesday, Winter's Tuesday in Cape Town here in South Africa. My name is Africa Malani. This is our second in a series of creative exchange dialogues where South Africa's future is truly circular. Today, we had hoped to focus both on the textile industry as well as tourism, but unfortunately the guest who was going to join us to focus specifically on tourism fell ill literally a few hours ago, and we thought we'd make the rather responsible decision and ask him to stay at home as opposed to coming all the way here to the magnificent old granary building on Batenkant Street and potentially get the rest of us rather unsettled in the next couple of days. So there will be a slant towards focusing on the textile industry and how the circular economy can actually make a difference there. I read recently that less than 5% of the garments we wear, not only in South Africa but anywhere in the world, are in any way recycled, rethought or reused or upcycled, whatever your term might be. And I also read in another paper that if the shirt I'm wearing had been created from previous garments, that I would have saved 70% of the energy that it consumes to actually create a brand new garment. Why it is that we still have a lot of factories, not only in South Africa, but across the world, that are producing new garments from scratch is beyond me, when our landfills are filling up every day with wastage as far as textile industry is concerned. We'll be focusing on that today and hopefully coming up with some solutions, as well as focusing on how we can shift behavior in this regard. You are most welcome, of course, to participate in the conversation. Please use the relevant function on this platform to pose your questions, and then those will be forwarded to me, and we'll be asking, of course, of our guests. Now, before I introduce you to our esteemed panel that will be joining us, two of them will be online and one will be joining me on the guest. For official welcome, Helene Renkes, the Consul General of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, based here in Cape Town, is not able to join us today. And no, it's not because the Dutch King had acknowledged slavery on the 160th anniversary of the abolition of slavery, which I think is a very important announcement. And of course, given the ties between the Netherlands and Cape Town, it's certainly significant to us as well. And in a different time, a different platform, we'll have the conversation of what that means. She's not been able to join us today because of prior commitments, but she did send us this message.
A warm welcome to everybody to the second Creative Exchange. I am really sorry and sad that I'm not able to join you today, but I was at the first Creative Exchange and it was a fantastic and inspiring event. A lot of people were there and I hope this event will just be as successful. From the first Creative Exchange, I had two major takeaways. One is to really to continue on all the initiatives that are already there in South Africa, and I'm thinking about waste, I'm thinking about agriculture, I'm thinking about residual food, of course energy and water. And the second takeaway is the importance of all the different stakeholders working together, the public sector, the producers, and of course the consumers. And they all have to see the benefit of working together. Today's Creative Exchange will be on fashion and on tourism. And I think fashion offers fantastic opportunities. I can think of the use of digital design, renewable energy during the production process, or recycling and sorting. So for the tourism sector, sustainable tourism is nowadays really a money maker. It is for the service provider important, but it can also be a trendsetter for the immediate surroundings. And South Africa, of course, is uniquely in a position to take an advantage in that sector. So most of all, circular economy has to be made attractive and sexy, because people have to be eager to participate in it and to contribute to it. I wish you a fantastic discussion today, and I hope to see all of you again in August during the Co-Creative Design Festival.
And of course, we will be sharing the details of that design festival in due course. Helene, thank you very much for that message. We will certainly miss you here today, because not only are you the Consular General, but you are a practitioner in the space for quite some time. So this is something that's quite close to your heart. We certainly appreciate that. Well, joining me, of course, on the couch is the CEO of the Craft and Design Institute, important partners with the Dutch Consulate in bringing together the series of dialogues. Erica, lovely to see you here. You were in KwaZulu-Natal a month ago.
Great to be here. Great to be here. Yeah.
How do we make this sexy?
Sure, that's a very difficult question, Africa. And I really think from a fashion point of view, I'm not even getting into tourism, this is really something where we as individual consumers have power in terms of changing the way products are made or supplied to us by using our buying power as consumers. But I think for that to happen, we need a sort of shift in behavior, but also a shift in appreciation and what we're looking for. So I was sort of thinking about this, and actually I think probably 90% of us, maybe not 100% of us, are slaves to fashion. So our consumer purchases are really driven by what we read in the media, what we're exposed to. And how do we shift that sort of power relationship so consumers are informing what is made and what we're looking for, and change the way that sort of production happens or retail happens. I don't know if that's possible. It is possible in...
I would like to think it is, because ultimately, if I go out there and I say I'm looking for product A that is sustainably sourced, that is using as much as possible recycled material, the supplier will have to start doing that, right? Now, granted, if I do it just as Africa Melane, perhaps not. But if there are 3,240 of us, somebody might go, wait a minute, there's a potential market there.
Yeah, and I suppose it's getting to the volume that is what is necessary to change the system, because I think actually it's a system problem. There's a whole industry, and I'm sure the experts on the panel are going to talk about this more, but there is a whole industry internationally that is churning out fashion every day, new fashion every day, and pushing consumers to consume it. I remember being told a while back, this was like a few years ago, by fashion industry experts, that there used to be 2 seasons, fashion seasons in a year, spring and summer, and winter and fall and winter, whatever they were. And now I think it's changing every 6 weeks. There's a new sort of push around fashion, and we're buying into that. So how do we put the brakes on that system? I think that's really the big question and the challenge.
Of course, you at the Craft and Design Institute are doing your bit, because a lot of your partners are actually working in this space where they're collecting things and looking to reuse and repurpose.
Yeah, so I think for me the solution lies, not just in consumer changed behavior, but also in supporting the small businesses and the designers and the creatives who are making their own, in a way, in a response to big fashion. I don't know if we can call it that. And so then that also, what is requires a sort of consumer shift, is supporting the local suppliers and the local manufacturers, who are doing a lot more repurposing, upcycling, reusing, because that's what they need to do. Often that's a sort of business approach, because it's what makes business possible.
Yeah.
But how do you help them, support them, so that becomes their business?
Looking forward to the conversation, I must admit.
Me too.
You'll have the incredible, unenviable task of making copious amounts of notes and then joining me on the couch again at the end for the wrap-up.
No pressure.
None whatsoever. Erica Alk, of course, is the Group Chief Executive of the Craft and Design Institute. Remember that this series of creative exchange events will culminate in the 2023 hashtag Co-Create Design Festival, which is happening on the 7th and the 8th of August. We'll be at the brand spanking new building on Middle Campus at the University of Cape Town, the D School. which is a fantastic facility that does incredible work in design thinking, not only in South Africa, but also on the African continent, and we certainly hope to see you there. I should note that the event series for this year is also supported by the City of Cape Town, by Green Cape, the African Circular Economy Network, as well as Circular South Africa. And all the events will gather, of course, not only academics, practitioners, policymakers, government officials, professionals, anyone and everyone in the value chain. And let's see how we can ensure that South Africa's future is indeed circular. Now, I did indicate at the start of this live stream that the tourism sector, unfortunately, underrepresented today because the person who was going to speak to it fell ill this morning. So our bias this morning will be very much on the textile industry. Where possible, we'll try and answer some of the tourism questions. Tracy Gilmore is my first guest for this afternoon. She's the Chief Operations Officer and co-founder of Taking Care of Business, previously known as the Clothing Bank. And Tracy, I remember the brand, the Clothing Bank. I wonder why the change. Good afternoon and welcome to this event. Do tell us a little bit more about your organization and what you do.
Thank you so much. It's lovely to be here. Thank you. Yes, so the Clothing Bank, we got a letter from the Reserve Bank in March last year to say you can't use the word bank in your name. So the timing was actually right because we have so many different programs now, and we were thinking about rebranding, but we were so attached to the name, the Clothing Bank. So it was actually a good fit. So we were able to go through a journey and rebrand. So it's been great.
All right, so you don't need me to get in touch with the governor of the Reserve Bank and ask that we be given special dispensation to use the term to you.
No, it was good. It gave us a bit of a challenge. It pushed us out of our comfort zone, which is a good thing, you know, sometimes.
Stunning.
So
tell us about the organization.
Yes, sure. So Taking Care of Business, we help unemployed South Africans start businesses using waste as a resource. So our biggest focus is on the social foundation, because that is at the core of our economy. How do we support that social foundation? And we now have created programs. We started in 2010 when we realized there is this huge amount of surplus stock within the retail supply chain, and how we could use that stock as an opportunity to really help moms start trading businesses. So we first approached our retail partners, and that's also sometimes when people need to have a bit of a trigger. So for example, all of our retail partners can claim enterprise development points on their BEE scorecards. So that was a good link with them, and there was this trust relationship with them already. And so they started to give us all of the surplus stock. So that is end of season merchandise, customer returns, and also bulk rejections sometimes. And then we take women through a 2-year journey. So we do a deep dive into running a business. So we do business skills, finance skills, life skills. We offer a lot of support through coaching and mentoring. And then I think the most impactful thing is actually the social connections that start to grow. So the new friendships that form are very powerful in that process. And then women have access to all this amazing stock that is hugely generous. I mean, no retailers internationally do what our retailers do. They're giving us all of the stock, and it's really helping women set up decent businesses where they're generating a decent income from that. And then a few years later, the Clicks group came to us, and they started to donate their customer returned appliances to us. And then we recruited men into that program. So it's slightly different to the fashion industry, but we're now working with dads and giving them the same skills, but adding on the technical skills needed to repair anything from a kettle all the way to a fridge. Become a passion project of ours to see so much shifting happening in people, that entrepreneurial mindset starting to happen. And then the third program is called Remake. And in Remake, we are now getting pre-consumer waste. That's end of fabric rolls and pieces of fabric, offcuts, trims. And we're recruiting seamstresses into the program, women that know how to sew into the program, and upskilling them and with creativity and giving them access to affordable raw materials. So you're seeing such a lovely shift happening there as well. And it's so important to offer a lot of support so that we can link people also to the market so they can feel like they can access the economy. Because it's a massive challenge in our country, and we need to be there to offer a lot of support. And it's taking that personal responsibility and the social responsibility while supporting the planet in a healthy way.
Sounds amazing. And it looks like you are trying to intervene at different touch points of the value chain, if you like. On the one hand, the product has been produced and has been put out to market and has been returned for whatever reason, and then you're finding a different purpose for it. And then at the earlier intervention, now that these bales of fabric have not all been used, let's see what we can create with it.
That's right, absolutely. We're also getting some uniforms, which made me a little bit anxious to see if we could repurpose uniforms, but that's something that we're starting to do now. And we're working with also local designers who are coming in and repurposing uniforms into other, maybe bags or other clothing. So it's been an amazing journey.
Out of interest, who is the market that you are trying to sell this repurposed product to?
So that market, we're looking, because we've got strong relationships with our retail partners. So we're wanting to see if it's still a pilot project, to see if we can create production lines and then link women who are in the production line, so have the production line as an incubator, get the product quality right, get the production flowing well, and then hand that over to a group of women to run that program. So that's the idea. So right now, women are actually selling in their local communities. So, for example, turning a workwear jacket into a bomber jacket and selling that locally, because streetwear is actually in demand. So that's happening locally, but now we're wanting to also reach out to our retailers. But I just got to make sure that we've got the right product, and they're definitely open to these conversations.
All right. Tracy, in a moment, I'll come back to you to reflect on what are some of the challenges that you are facing, and more importantly, what those solutions could be. But let me introduce the next panel member. Joining me here in our makeshift studio in Cape Town is Deirdre Arendse. Deirdre is currently serving as Weaver's Operations and Performance Manager, and Weaver is a digital system for managing sustainability. I don't know what that means, Deirdre. Good morning. Good afternoon, rather.
Thank you so much, Africa. It's really an honor and a privilege to be here today. Yeah, wow, you know what? I also didn't know until I joined. But honestly, Weaver has been really such an eye-opener to the world. And it's something that has drawn me to want to be a part of this amazing vision where we had a lot of great minds sitting around a table coming up with this amazing concept to create a platform where the hospitality industry, who basically covers 10% of GDP, where the impact can be so great in just using a platform that where they can manage and capture data to help them improve within their sustainability journey, just to do things better. But it really gives a holistic view of sustainability. You know, sometimes we think of just conservation, saving the planet, but what about people? What about culture? What about commerce? And so just inspired by the long run, we brought about this platform where it's just so easy to use, and it is for your startups. It is for just a person like you and I that can come in and use a platform just to do things better, to make a difference, whether it be with people or saving the planet, that is.
And how does that all happen?
So we basically built this tool, and it allows you to capture your data. So me make an example like water usage. So you would be able to capture how you use your water. You know, some people like to do greenwashing, but that's not what we're about. We want to see what kind of investment are you making with regards to your community. Are you using local service? And it's basically using the tool to capture that information so that you can be able to have something that you can track and improve on. So yeah.
All right. You are going to demonstrate how it works, will you?
Yes. So I would like everyone to have a look at a video clip that really inspired us to make a change. So yeah, if we can play that.
I got hairs on end thinking about it. So he called me last week because we never met or spoken, and he said to me, "Juliet, can I be frank with you? Sorry, my eyes are welling up. Please excuse me, I'm going to swear, everyone. He said, we're all okay? And I'm saying that to you, and it's hardcore, but that is reality. And I'm only just saying this to you, just so we can really understand that we have the potential to really change an industry that employs 1/10 of the world.
Yeah, so I understand that a video like that can really capture the heart. It definitely captured mine. So I would just like to give an introduction, if I can go ahead with our presentation, just on really how Weaver has come about and the tool that it presents. And so it's about really tracking, measuring, and improving your sustainability walk. Okay. So, welcome to Weaver, who is the new innovative tech tool that I believe is really going to change the world. Our focus at this stage is the hospitality industry. Obviously, looking at where we're at, we want to make a difference. If I can go to the next slide, please. So, looking at the hospitality industry, the fact that it employs 10% of the global population, we have serious clout. We can seriously make a difference knowing that it employs 10% of the global population. We do, however, admit that there has been a drop in the time of COVID. I think the hospitality and the tourism sector has been hit the hardest with regards to that, with the lockdowns that occurred. And so Weaver was born out of COVID. It was, how do we make things better? How do we sit around the table where a business can be sustainable in all aspects, financially, where just conservation is concerned, where culture and communities are still able to thrive? How do we make businesses sustainable enough for the future to endure the future and hardships? And so Weaver was born out of this. Okay, if we can go to the next slide. So just a bit of a funny story. You know, I absolutely love Strava. Okay, I love the fact that there are such amazing management tools right in your pocket, where you can track, you can measure, you can set targets for yourself. And so part of the inspiration that we had was really not just the travel industry, but also these little management tools that really makes a difference. And so we developed Weaver that's able to do that, a platform that you are able to insert your data, you're able to manage your data, you're able to set targets, there are edu guides, and it's really, like it says, a one-stop shop for hotels and lodges. It's a sustainability practitioner right there in your pocket. So it's really an amazing tool for the hospitality industry that they've adopted right now. Another aspect of Weaver is that we wanted something to be affordable. We wanted any bed and breakfast, any travel and tourism company to be able to just adopt this. For us, the main vision was that the sector is able to adopt a way of sustainability. And we didn't want something that would be where you can't achieve, or you need someone that is really on a higher level of sustainability. We wanted everyone to just get started. And so we are saying we have amazing teams that helps you to onboard if you're a beginner and just take you along the journey. Next slide, please. So, why the tourism industry needs Weaver. 2 major barriers to sustainability in the tourism industry. Just taking that first step can be intimidating. That is something that we've actually had quite a lot over the last couple of months. Is people were like, where do we start? What do we do? You know, and for us, it was a matter of taking people by the hand, showing them that you really just need to take one element. Let's see where you are at, really looking where you're at. And if I'm not mistaken, within the fashion industry, a big issue is the amount of water that is consumed when trying to make the different brands. And so this tool is able to help you manage that process and possibly source alternatives and give you guidance. There's edu-guides and there's help tips to really just get you going on your journey, but also just our team is there to give you the support you need. Next slide, please. Why data capture is less work than you think? Like I said, edu-guides, tasks and reports. What is so amazing is that the platform is so user-friendly that we involve all teams. So from someone who's just doing housekeeping to someone who's checking the water and electricity out in the yard, we want everybody to have this platform where they are able to be interactive, and as a team you go on your sustainability journey, and our platform is able to offer you all of the above. Thank you. Next slide, please. And this is exactly why we need the tool. The tool should be something that's in your face. It is something that you can apply your data every day, you can set your targets, and it helps you to manage your systems. You can't change what you can't see. You can't improve what you don't have or what you haven't captured. And so we built this program that is really just a platform for you to improve the way you do things within the travel and tourism sector. Next slide, please. So for us, progress is not perfection. We are not asking for the elites to do this. We are asking people like you and I to really just start the journey with us. And so this is Weaver.
Deirdre, thank you very much for that. So from what I'm appreciating about it is that the issue of sustainability, I suppose, particularly in the hotel and hospitality space, could be across many aspects of business.
Yes, correct.
Because one thinks of travel and thinks of the long-haul flights and the
Yes.
amount of fuel that you're going to be burning in order for you to go from wherever to come to Cape Town, right? As you say, the cost of laundry that you do every day and the water that you spend in the electricity and so forth and so forth and so forth. From you guys implementing use of that application, are there any, I suppose, specific areas where you found, wait a minute, people in the sector are actually finding, I can be better at this, I can be more sustainable in this aspect of the business?
Absolutely. So if you look at our community-based projects or the service providers that you are bringing into your business, a lot of them come from across country, and so you think of those carbon emissions, you think about those greenhouse gases, and you realize, like, wait, maybe there is someone local that I can recruit to do what this company is doing. And so we find that there's more conscious changes that is taking place. There's a sense of accountability that happens where you realize this platform that we've developed is just helping you, guide you along that journey to make better decisions. And at the end of the day, you are not just helping the local economy, but you are also contributing towards conservation.
For sure. And we'll unpack the application a bit more as the afternoon unfolds. Let me now introduce the third and final speaker for this afternoon. Alma Struma is joining us all the way from the Netherlands. Alma is a co-founder of Africa Collect Textiles and has experience predominantly in the sustainable product design and textile sectors. Alma, lovely to have you here with us this afternoon. What is Africa Collect Textiles?
Thank you for having me. Africa Collect Textiles is an organization that collect textiles. We are active in Kenya and Nigeria, in Nairobi and Lagos specifically, and we have collection bins where people can drop off used clothing. We also pick up offcuts and used uniforms. When we take all these items to our warehouse, we sort them out. When they are still wearable, when clothing is still wearable, it's basically locally sourced secondhand clothes. We make sure that they are worn again. We have around 50 women that are reselling locally sourced secondhand clothes. And this is an important part of the model. Because this lowers the dependency on foreign secondhand clothes. Because, like, I'm from the Netherlands, and from Europe in general, there's a lot of used textiles being sold to African nations, and it comes with a lot of waste. It is not always on purpose. Sometimes I think actually it is on purpose, but it's not always on purpose. But many textiles or clothing is just not fit for context, so it is just not sellable. People don't like it. The fabrics are not suiting the climate and things like that. So what we do is we believe that not all secondhand clothes has to come from the global north. There is already actually quite a number of materials available that can be forwarded or can be used by someone else or can be used longer. So that is one part. It's the local secondhand clothing sector that we're kickstarting. And secondly, we are upcycling materials. We use typical Kenyan or Nigerian crafts like tailoring or like basket weaving or rug weaving to process fashion waste into new products such as rugs, backpacks, toys, things like that. And now we are, that is the second part, so the upcycling department. And the third step is to start fiberization. This is what we are starting right now, to make first filling and then felt. And then eventually we would like to recover fibers back from these clothing or offcuts or uniforms to be able to process them into new textiles. So we can spin fibers together with virgin fibers into yarn and then weave them into new textiles locally. And Kenya and Nigeria are actually quite far in terms of circularity because locally textiles are still made. Like, even though the secondhand trade has like impacted negatively the local manufacturing of textiles, there is still some cotton production and spinning and mills and weavers that can actually eventually produce circular textiles. So we see there a lot of possibilities, and I think this is what ACT is doing.
In fact, that's possibly one of the challenges that we have here in South Africa, right? We used to have a very thriving textile industry where not only in parts of Cape Town and Paarl, but also as far north as KwaZulu-Natal, you had these incredible mills that were producing textiles. A lot of that disappearing, unfortunately, to primarily the Far East and other parts of the world, and it's very difficult to bring it back to South Africa in a cost-effective way. Let me ask the uncomfortable question and get it out of the way, Alma. Why can't Europe reuse and repurpose their own clothes? Why bring them to Africa?
Yeah, that is indeed the ultimate uncomfortable waste colonialism kind of question, and it is very on point. Because people use too much. We use more than we can swallow, basically. Clothing is not meant to last. Clothing is cheap, relatively. People can buy a lot of clothing, and we can get rid of it very easily. So this is also a huge problem, and many European countries, but also America and Canada and Australia, South Korea, China, they are now selling used clothing to Africa. And that is, on the one hand, because the global north has to get rid of it, because there is not enough capacity to process those clothes. But there's also an argument of reusing is always higher on the circularity ladder than demolishing it or to shredder it or to burn it for energy. So there is an argument to be made that if textiles are still wearable, someone should wear them. And at the same time, there is a need for affordable clothing in Africa. So there, a lot of people need t-shirts or like jeans or whatever for as low as possible price. So that is so on the one hand, the global north, yes, it has surplus materials that it cannot process. It is like there is just not enough capacity to process those textiles into new clothing, and that is also because they are not designed to be recycled. But it's also that there are just not facilities. There are no facilities that can fiberize textiles or take them apart because some winter jackets it takes 6 hours to take them apart, to take off the buttons and the zippers, and it becomes far too expensive to do that. So it is also economically not viable. But so yes, there is far too much materials, and there is a desperate need for affordable clothing at the other side of the world, and that need is misused. That is because the global north is selling those materials and also shipping with it waste. And some studies say that up to 40% of what is shipped is actually unsellable. So it is a very painful trade with basically Mother Earth and the planet and the people that are putting their money on and gambling on the 50-kilo bills that are coming in. They are basically buying the waste that they cannot resell. And though these are basically the biggest losers of this trade. I don't know if that answers your question, but
No. Look, I mean, ideally,
it's
you should be able to go, okay, cool, which fashion items are going to be consumed, produce it to capacity so that you're not sitting with excess waste, therefore no need to be sending clothes to the global south. But we all know that there might be a fashion designer sitting there now who is, I don't know, tasked with the foresight of trying to design something that may or may not be attractive rather to a potential buyer in a year and a half or 2 years' time. And I certainly do not wish to be in the fashion industry in any way whatsoever. But Tracy, I imagine a lot of what Elma has said resonates with you, right? Where we are overproducing, so therefore we don't have the capacity to consume everything that is produced. But the issue of cost and affordability becomes key as well.
Yes, absolutely. Things are very expensive, and our rand is very low and our economy is stagnant. So it's very challenging times.
So what do we do about it?
Yes,
That's
exactly.
actually where the question is going
Yes,
to.
yes. So we need to empower our social foundation. We need to take a moment to breathe, and we've got to start seeing the bigger picture. So we've got to start seeing the opportunities out there and the possibilities out there. Because when we're stuck in a box, we're stuck in survival mode, and we can't see that bigger picture. So we need to start doing that. And it's not just about people living in poverty. It's also about people earning a decent income are also in debt. So we also feel quite stuck. There's a bond that you've got to pay off. You've bought a new car, et cetera, et cetera. So it's very hard for us to start. We've got to start reimagining things, and it's very challenging. But there are real opportunities out there. I've just come back I was in Amsterdam 2 weeks ago. It was really interesting seeing how they are also really looking at the circular economy in so many different ways. They're trying to turn that city into a donut city, hey, Elmar? I'm sure they're on that. And the donut economics, if you Google Kate Raworth, the way she explains the way we need to look at things makes so much sense. You don't have to be an academic to understand Kate Raworth. She really thinks we've got to be agnostic about growth. We've got to see that bigger picture. We've got to nurture human nature. So there's so many more things, different components that we have to do. And we can't just completely rely on the government. The government's responsibilities are the services and education. And as individuals, we need to take responsibility. We can't keep naming and shaming. We've got to also own our space.
Which I think leads me then to the next sort of topic, which links in very nicely to the last conversation we had. That is a pact being developed, seemingly driven primarily by the industry, supported by government, because ultimately one will need to have the legislative framework that enables such a pact. And perhaps I'll start with you, Deirdre. Is there something that the hospitality and tourism industry is even considering, where they're going, wait a minute, we have a role to play here. We have to be responsible in how we conduct business, and this is how we believe industry practice should be, where issues of sustainability and, in this case, circular economy are concerned?
Yeah, it should be our foundation in every business sector. And like Tracy said, it's really about taking responsibility for yourself. But at the same time, I would disagree when it comes to the government. The government plays such a vital role in driving the change. And what I do believe is it starts with education and the financial backing and collaboration between the private sector and the government to unite, to come up with plans that we are able to come up with the relevant foundation to go in that way. So we need that pact. We need to come up with a standard that we can work with, because we don't want to be so dependent on the North. We want to make sure that we are using our own local resources, making sure that we are abiding by the standards, and then making the necessary change. But we need the input from government and change to happen, for change to happen on the ground. It's very difficult and it's very heavy, I feel, on the private sectors right now, but we need to come together. We need a vision. We need to work with regards to what is that pact, and then focus on that and building plans around to achieve it.
Does government know what's going on in your sector, though? I mean, we talking about tourism specifically, we're still trying to get a board for SA Tourism that is actually going to be doing the work that it needs to do to sell South Africa as a destination. I'm not trying to abdicate any responsibility from government regarding what needs to happen, but is there anyone better placed than those practitioners in the sector that actually can help to define or give the framework to this pact?
Yes, and I agree with that. And so we need those practitioners. We need those practitioners to stand together, to come and work out what it is, what would that clause look like, but to involve government officials in that planning so that we can get them on board, get the support we need to get the education out with regards to making that necessary change. But we do need us to have a collab system in place. We need to work together to make those changes.
Alma, is there any such pact that exists not only perhaps in the Netherlands but in the global north that you are aware of, and how did the different players get it right?
Well, I think there is still a lot to be done. There is this extended producer responsibility legislation now being like this active now for 3 days in the Netherlands. France already has it for some time. It means that producers or importers of fashion are remain responsible also for the end of life stage. There's still it's still not completely crystallized how that would impact the trade from the Netherlands or from the global north to the global south, because for now the focus is primarily on listing the brands that would like to participate, understanding how many clothing or how many kilos they put on the market every year. There will be a waste tax at some point added to each t-shirt or each clothing. And then people need to decide what to do with the funds that are generated. And this is still up to debate, because in the Netherlands, for example, we collect 30% of all the textiles that we use with our clothing collection systems. 70% still ends up in the normal trash and is burned, at least for energy, but it is burned. So there's still a lot to win by collecting more used clothing. But the problem is that when we collect more used clothing, what will happen with that, with these items, when we do not have the capacity to recycle these clothing into new clothing? Like we could shredder them maybe, but we don't have spinners. Like we have a few, but we cannot produce our own clothing, and so so we don't have the capacity. So what happens when we collect more or we invest in more in a higher collection rate? The problem is that we might send even more to African nations, and this is a huge challenge. So if countries are going to apply these kind of legislations only on their own country, so the Netherlands is going to send H&M and the Zara a bill for what they are importing in the Netherlands. But the moment the Netherlands is becoming an exporter, those rules do not apply anymore. And the biggest environmental and social damage is caused in other countries. So we have a very long way to go to put these rules and put the money where it is needed most. And in my opinion, it's not we should not yet invest in bigger collection volumes or bigger recycling systems in the Netherlands if we have if our system has caused so much damage in the last 40 years in African nations. So that is, I think, is a priority. The textile industry is international. I do believe that we need to look at it more locally, and there are great examples of brands that produce locally and collect locally and keep it at least within Europe. And these things definitely need to be supported. But I do not expect that the second-hand clothing trade is going to disappear in the next 10 years. And the promise of global north countries to possibly one day recycle everything that is collected cannot be used for not taking action of what we have experienced, or what we have seen happening in Ghana, in Kenya, in the rivers and oceans that are heavily polluted by sending used textiles to countries without any collection, sorting, and recycling infrastructure. And also what Tracy mentioned, Amsterdam is a good example there is a donut, there is a need for it wants to be one of the first circular cities in the world, but half of the items that is collected are still knowingly exported to countries that will never be able to recycle them unless we help them with that. Because recycling
And
is
is there
funded.
an appetite there, Alma, to fix that? Because that's clearly, pardon the pun, the loophole, right? So we're going to deal with the issue of excess capacity as far as textiles are concerned by, yes, imposing some end-of-life responsibility on those who produce and sell the clothes. But there seems to be, well, it doesn't matter what they do with it once it's out of our borders. Should the government not extend whatever this pact is to saying that end-of-life responsibility actually extends to where do you send it to? Can you demonstrate that the destination of the second-hand clothing or end-of-life product, that those countries are going to be able to deal with it?
Exactly. Because these kind of pacts need to be international, because the textile trade is international. And so far, France and the Netherlands and Sweden and Belgium are looking at the problem from a country perspective. And this is also logical, because that is what you can control. But the damage is caused somewhere else. And if the Netherlands is going to apply a waste tax on items that are imported, we also need to take the responsibility of applying a waste tax when we are exporting those items. So, and then maybe you could say, okay, the Kenyan government, the Nigerian government, or the Ghanaian government should apply those legislation or should apply those rules. And yes, they should also be supported in that. But we can apply those rules if we want to. So if the Netherlands or Amsterdam cannot process its own waste, and it has to be processed somewhere else, or there are countries that are willing to make the city council of Amsterdam more sustainable by wearing another time their clothes, they need to also be supported in the facilitating the real end of life, the end of life of the end of life. And so I think that there needs to be a waste tax on the second-hand clothes that are exported, so that Kenya and Ghana and Nigeria, or all the countries that are willing to take up those items, can make sure that these materials do not end up in nature or in the rivers or in oceans eventually.
Tracy, what do we need to do? Not only in South Africa, but governments across Africa. I appreciate you not involved in drawing up legislation and international relations or anything like that. But Alma raises a point. The Netherlands in this case, along with France, Belgium, and other countries in Europe, are doing what they can, right, in making sure that those producers of textile and material and product are, through taxes and other means, held to account. Yeah. But if we do not put in place legislation that says, no, thank you, we will not take that product unless you invest in infrastructure that allows us to do A, B, C, D, keep them out of our borders.
Yes, yes. So obviously in the e-waste sector that's happened. So there's extended producer responsibilities happening. So the conversations are happening. But in South Africa, to import, the tax is quite high. It's 45%. And secondhand clothing are banned. You can't bring them into South Africa. And actually, we've got a lot sitting in our SARS warehouses that have been sneaking through our borders. So that is definitely starting to happen more than it used to. So there are definitely a certain amount of restrictions. But the other thing with extended producer responsibilities, the consumer ends up paying the tax. So that's something also to sort of also think about a little bit, you know, because, you know, our economy is stagnant and we have to let it grow in some way. But I have been quite involved with the PRO organizations in the e-waste sector, and they are adding a lot of value, and they're also doing a lot of education. So I think that's very important. They're sharing a lot of knowledge out there. So the same thing could be happening in the textile sector and focusing a lot more on creating awareness. Because sometimes we need to be cracked into consciousness sometimes around what's actually happening. We don't always know. So that's really where they could focus a lot on that in that space. And I know that our retail partners have all got very strong sustainability divisions. And those people are having strong conversations, and they're even having collaborative conversations. So people are wanting to see change, but it's just the first steps have to actually happen. We can't just keep on talking about it.
I mean, in a different context altogether, how long have we been sort of trumpeting the call to buy local in this country? And yet, and you'll have probably the numbers better than I ever could, the largest proportion of clothes that we wear on our backs is imported, is made somewhere else and then brought into this country is as either a finished product or something that we need to put together. It's difficult, isn't it, to shift behavior?
It's very difficult to shift behavior. Look, locally, the CMT factories are being set up. More is being manufactured locally. But as you mentioned earlier about our textiles, that's a real challenge because we don't have those textile mills anymore. So we've got to import a lot of that. And we're importing mostly polyester because that's kind of affordable in the rand value. So that's where the challenges are. But there's massive opportunities here. I mean, imagine, if we grew hemp as a textile, we can grow so much hemp in South Africa. But to set up a factory, the aggregator to process the hemp is going to cost millions and millions of rands. So we need to be thinking around who will invest in all of this, because that's also massive job creation opportunities in the sector. But there is obviously a certain level of risk.
Could those jobs exist in a space where, because what's happening to the cannabis industry and the hemp industry and all of that is, there's some work, as we know, that is being done there, but it's not happening fast enough, I don't think, in realizing the potential for what that can produce. However, back to Alma's point, where if you have a jacket that's going to take 6 hours to take apart, and then obviously use the elements then to create fabric again, could we not acknowledge that that is where we can create jobs? So yeah, bring us your excess waste from Europe. We'll charge X amount in order for us to do this. In the process, let's create 10,000 jobs. And yes, you and I might need to pay a slight premium for clothes made out of that fabric, but at least I'm happy to do that because I'm helping to create employment and obviously save the planet.
But I think we're also going to be very careful that we're not also messing up the industry. So if we're going to be importing huge amounts of stock, what is going to be happening in that retail industry? Because our retail industry creates a lot of jobs. So we've also got to be careful and respect that element as well. So that's something to honestly think about. We must be careful about bringing things in here, because what we're doing at Taking Care of Business, we are finding solutions for our local waste. But I wouldn't really, often people say, oh, your program works so well. We support 1,000 women a year. We've also got graduates in the program, 200 men. There's a lot of people that are being supported through this process. If you need to grow your program, bring in more stock. My answer is always no, because I don't want to contribute. I want to extend the life of what we currently have here. I don't want to bring in, I think we must be careful because we don't want to mess up that industry. We've got to see that bigger picture all the time.
All right.
Lots of people are being employed there.
Tracy, and Elma, I'll come to you shortly. Tracy, I'm giving you the magic wand now. You have obviously the issue we're talking about here at hand, which is obviously a circular economy around particularly textiles and fashion. We have to address the issue of unemployment in this country. We have millions and millions of people who are unemployed and living below the poverty line. Absolutely. And we need to give skills to and to give dignity, quite frankly, in giving a job.
Absolutely.
And whether we like it or not, we do have a global north that has a lot of fabric to dump. What's the magic formula?
For me, the magic formula is to also look at the whole value chain. So Elma mentioned earlier the design. So it starts at the design phase. What are the designers, and what are the materials that they're using? And then re-looking at the whole production line. We're mentioning the water that gets used, so the productivity, and then the retail stores, and then the consumers. So we need to look at that whole value chain. And I think often what we keep talking about in the circular economy is at the end of the life, which is going to be carrying on, as you said, for like 10 years. But we need to look at that whole value chain. And there's opportunities definitely in South Africa to be supporting that. Because if we were exporting hemp fiber, I mean, not that I know much about it, I'm just saying, as an example, then we could be creating a lot of jobs and we could be adding value to the global north in the longer term. So because lots of people are interested in the agri space in South Africa. So what else can we do there? But we must look at that whole value chain.
Alma?
Yeah. Sorry?
Oh, sorry, I thought you wanted to interject there earlier. Let me then repeat the question to you. You've got the magic wand. Yes, you are based in the global north, but you're working in two very important markets on the African continent. What is the solution here that we need to explore, do you think?
No, definitely. I mean, I totally agree with Tracy because there are many gray areas everywhere. And if you say like where we can ship in clothing that is very takes 6 hours to take apart, but then half of the parts is polyester and is impossible to recycle, and you don't want to take those to countries that do not have the facilities to process those materials. And it's indeed like we are always saying, like we are not a waste management company. We are not, because we are very also a bit afraid that we are justifying the waste dumping in Africa because ACT can recycle everything, and that is not true. We can only recycle specific materials and specific items. So I would like to call it sort of like we are more. We are an organization that can collect and sort and recognize materials that are suitable for upcycling or recycling. And that's why also East Africa and West Africa, but I don't know much about the southern parts, but it has a very big opportunity because what I said earlier, cotton is grown and there is a lot of production still alive. Like if you look at the Netherlands, we don't know where our clothes is coming from. We have to believe the Better Cotton Initiative label that it is fairly made. We just have to believe that it is that nobody was like impacted negatively in the process. We have no idea that if that is true, and we have also no idea where our items are going to after we donated them to the City Council of Amsterdam, who is then selling those items to a collector. So it is there. It's very difficult to manage that. If you don't know where it's coming from, you don't know where it is going to. And Kenya is a huge country with a lot of users. It is possible to understand where the cotton is coming from, or from Uganda. It is from the region. And it is possible to also bring those materials back to the original producer. So I would love to develop ourselves, not as a waste processor and taking up difficult to recycle materials or items because it takes 6 hours to take apart. Yeah, only if the brand is paying heavily for that, and only if the brand actually designed it in such a way that every part can be recycled locally with us. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Alma, thank you very much. Now, usually I would ask the audience for questions at this point, which you obviously are most welcome to do. I'd love to know, are any of you involved in the fashion and textile industry? And more importantly, what are you doing to address the issue that we're talking about? How are you contributing to the circular economy? There's somebody at the back. If you don't mind just standing up, please, and then introducing yourself and either contributing your comment or perhaps passing a question if you have.
Great, awesome. My name is Ado Ludidi. I'm a fashion designer. So I get these jackets like this one that I'm wearing now, and then I redo it like the way I've done it now. So with me, my question is, how do I put myself in a position where I could create a company out of what I'm doing? Because this is a second-hand jacket. I got it for like 125. Here's another one. Can you stand up, please? So these aren't South African-made jackets. I know they're coming from somewhere international. Sorry, I'm a bit nervous. So, so I came here to find out how I can create a business out of what I'm doing and how I can give back with it in educating other people to do the same thing I'm doing.
All right. Congratulations, by the way, and well done. I'm going to ask that either Erica or one of the team members from Craft and Design Institute get in touch with you, because that's what they do. They help individuals such as yourself create businesses from the incredible talent that they have. Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Good day. My name is Boengiwe. I'm one of TCB, Taking Care of Business beneficiaries. I'm a member at TCB. What TCB has been doing is such a big job. What exactly they are doing is they are creating business opportunities for us women who are unemployed, to create opportunities, job employment for other women who are unemployed, and even the youth that is unemployed. I'm a manufacturer, and I also would like to have my own factory. TCB has a lot of different departments like remake, reuse, and repair. So talking about regarding the textile industry, we do have those different departments that you can fit in. I can fit in if maybe there's a jacket that is torn, I can be able to make it something else. Like for an example, if maybe we receive some clothing who are maybe have rejects, we can be able to fix them and make it something that will be able to create job opportunities for other people and also generate income for unemployed people. There's a lot that TCB has been doing, teaching from sewing, domestic machines, sewing, industrial machines, teaching, coaching, counseling. There's a lot that is teaching that also we must not just look at something that is just job opportunities. We must know what made the person to be unemployed, what made the person that you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we must. That is how deep TCB does. They go through counseling with us who have been through. For an example, I'm a divorcee. I'm a single parent. So they go through us those things that we need in order for me to be able to make this outfit. It was TCB who have made this possible. I don't have an industrial sewing machine, but TCB has an industrial sewing machine for me, and it's free of charge. So those things are a lot for us. So if we could have some investors who can be able to invest to us so that we can also do the same to other people. What TCB has been doing to us, we can be able to do for other people too. There's a lot of people who are unemployed, and we have the skill to be able to help and create big, lot of job opportunities and entrepreneurial skills for the youth. Because what has been happening, the youth, the education we talked, I think the last time we talked about the education in South Africa, the education, it's just basing on what we need to do like mathematically, but they don't look into the entrepreneurial skills, what you can do as a young person. While you are at school, you can be able to employ a person while you are at school. I have Lynette, one of our managers at Remake, sorry for taking so long, has introduced me to the two young kids who are 13 years old. They are doing scrunchies. They have a lot of orders who are doing scrunchies. So we're also helping them.
I'm so sorry. What are scrunchies?
It's
Crunches.
pom-poms.
Okay.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I was going to show you.
Don't worry, it's been explained.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Two things. That's a lovely dress that you've got on. That's fantastic
It's a tracksuit.
skill work. Oh, tracksuit, sorry. And oh, look at that. Look at that. And secondly, that ex-husband of yours doesn't know what he was doing. So
Thank you.
we will leave alone. Lovely testimony there for the work done, of course, by taking care of business. Tracy, well done.
Hello everyone, my name is Noma. I'm a scientist. I do two specialties. One is biopolymers and the other is skincare. So how I started first with making biopolymers from food waste, and then I got funded, and then I'm now in the commercialization space, so I'm excited about that, and we are now patenting our technology. And yeah, but for today's session, we actually take we make watch straps. We've just started this. We make watch straps from used plastic, because someone in the city council asked if I am able to do biopolymers from food waste, can we do something about plastic? And I was like, okay, give me 2 months. So we researched, and now we do earrings. And we are not yet in the phase where we are going to sell it. We still have to do a bit of market research and see where we can actually do this. So a friend of mine has a 3D printing farm, so I asked him, I just gave him some money and I said, can you make some 3D things? So we took some stuff from Google, the images, and then I asked him, can you make these things? And then I went around with my sister to my favorite store. I like YD, I like Forever 21. No, sorry, Forever New. And then we went to where she likes, and then we did that. So there are a lot of opportunities as well. Sometimes I feel like people shy away from using innovation and science, and there's a lot of things. I mean, some of the things I didn't learn in university, I actually learned from like YouTube videos from people that didn't even go to university. So sometimes my advice is technology can be your friend, science can be your friend. And there's a lot of funding, not only in in just creating things, but also in finding innovative ways to make your product unique. Because some of the things, like if you are going to be facing an investor, they have lots of options on who to fund. You actually need to stand out, you need to be sustainable, and you need to be able to do this, replicate it in another country as well.
And you just like normal, like checkers bags, plastics, or
No,
do you need more complex plastics than that?
No, not complex plastics. The bottle tops.
Yeah.
So we can do bottle tops. There's a lot of things that we are doing, but the one thing that I'm excited about doing is also for people that are in wheelchairs, like making, like, it's called a banana, but it's a transfer stand for them to be able to move to another seat.
Oh, nice.
Or move into the toilet. So it's a little bit bigger than this, and currently on the market it's very expensive, and now we are trying to make it low cost. So I started with fashion, and then I was like, okay, what would be easy to sell, like the low-hanging fruits? But I think where I want to go is to go to the disabled community and give them at half of the cost.
That's amazing. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, so those are examples. Hold on. We've only got 17 minutes left. Is there anyone from the hospitality industry, hospitality industry, that might like to share some thoughts as to how we can actually, create a circular economy in that sector? No one? No doubt, but I've got a couple of other hands, so I'd rather than continue. No, okay, cool. Let's go back to those hands then in the textile industry. I know, but I just want to give as many voices a chance as possible. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. My name is Atengu Sikeka. I'm an electrical engineer by profession, a self-taught fashion designer, a director, a founder of Truth Ketla Designs. Truth Ketla Designs, we design mainly streetwear and customized garments, which is we enable to design anything that our customers require from us. To support or to engage in circular economy, what I do with the off-cuts that I get from making a garment, I don't throw them away. I then reuse them in order to make more jackets that maybe will be find out in different colors, and also collect jeans to make jean jackets out of the old jeans that people were wearing. Also, what I also do is I go to the suppliers, my fabric suppliers, with the damaged material. I then request them at a lower fee, and then sublimate those material and make new jacket of them. The one that I'm currently wearing now the color was a bit off, and then I then negotiated with the supplier. I then sublimated the fabric, make it more colorful. It was white initially with some dot colors, and then I then sublimated, made the jacket out of it.
It looks much better now.
Thank you, thank you.
And of course, you can connect with TCB, the clothing, not the clothing bank, taking care of business, because there might be some excess fabric that they might have access to that you can also work with. Thank you very much.
All right. My name is Mandela Kepato. Yeah, I'm staying here in Kailisha.
Sorry, did you say Mandela?
Yeah, Mandela. Yeah, they call me Mandela.
Yeah, okay, never mind. Go on.
I have other name. Yeah, Mandela. Yeah, okay. I'm from the Abambi Arts Movement, but I have a question to Mr. Elmer Stromer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So about his company that are in African countries. So are they here in South Africa? So where we can find them, and also, if one is there, I have someone who in my organization is a fashion designer, but she wants to learn a skill. She wants to go further with her skills. So what can she do to your company? What can anyone do there?
Not to take anything away from Alma, taking care of business seems to provide a lot of that service. But Alma, that question was directed to you.
Well, I think maybe the biggest difference between taking care of business and ACT is that maybe we focus a little bit more post-consumer waste of the general public. To answer the question, so we are not active in South Africa. So we have collection containers where people can drop off used clothing, clean and dry, but both wearable or non-wearable. But we have them in Nairobi and Lagos only. About 35 collection points in Nairobi and 20 in Lagos. So we don't have any in Johannesburg or Cape Town, because I also thought that there are very similar programs already active. There are places where you can get rid of clothes already. But like regarding the upcycling, so we are producing items mostly in Nairobi, and if people would like to come over for an internship or something like that, or like a traineeship kind of thing, then maybe we can discuss that.
For the flight to hear you. Do you mind coming to the front? There are a couple of questions or comments here, please. Thank you very much. Thanks, Alma. Thanks a lot.
So when you asked about the hospitality industry, I briefly worked in the industry when I was living in Vietnam. And we just found that there were so many opportunities. There were, in the Southeast Asian beaches, stretches of hotels that have 200 rooms each, and the hotels turn their linen like every 16 to 18 months. And we just found the hotel waste industry to be like a massive resource. So the organization, Green Youth Collective and Cormus that I was working with, would go pick up these used fabrics and then make school shirts for children in the villages from that. Or they'd collect the soap, and there's actually a really good organization called Diversity, and if you're a school or a small NGO, you can apply, you can write like a cover letter to them and apply for a small mechanic press that you can, and it's a whole kit, and you can do workshops on it, and you can get the soaps from hotels. You can train people on how to press new soaps, how to sanitize it, and then you can sell those soaps back to the hospitality industry. So it's really circular, you know, it's market to market. Yeah, there was just a few really great projects that they worked on. For instance, also collecting fruit waste from the hotels and then creating like bioproducts from it that you can clean your homes with. So the hospitality industry is just such a great resource because there's masses of waste coming from there. Absolutely. Yes, of course, it is the bottom-up approach to the circular economy, but there's also hotels across the world that's doing great things like giving a banner that you can put on your bed to say, please don't replace my linen. So small things like that.
Which, by the way, everybody should do.
Absolutely.
It's really, I mean, there's no, unless you were doing things in that hotel room that you should not be doing, but no one should be changing their linen once a day. And similarly with soaps and shampoos and stuff. I never understand why they take those things away if you're going to spend another night in that same hotel room. It really, really doesn't make sense.
So just trying to extend the life cycle of the products that's being used in the hospitality industry, but really looking at Southeast Asia for inspiration because it's such a big industry there. Yeah.
Exactly.
Great.
Thank you very much. There are a couple more hands within the area. Just here.
Hi everyone, my name is Ronal. I'm from the Nattery Corporate Gifting, and I'm really interested in, like, I've come to support my sister. She's done an amazing job from Weaver Deirdre. So, but I am interested in how to package corporate gifting, like nuts, dried fruits, and brand them with fabric as opposed to plastic. So I am sort of moving into that space, and I have been networking with various ECDs and colleges, and just to see from a young age, and how can we create sustainable packaging instead of using plastic. We've also created like something called a nut sack, which is just a bag that you can hold your nuts in. Sorry, excuse the pun. But so we really want to make it catchy and vibey and interesting. And I heard someone say, "How do we make it sexy?" But turning it on its head.
I'm not sure calling it a nut sack. I mean, I see where you go with your thinking there.
So we've got a few companies. We've got mainly the motor industry that gift their customers when they collect a vehicle or have bought a new vehicle. And so, we've been working with woodwork departments within colleges to see how can we make boxes. But fabric would be a great way to make, like, I think, gift bags, or like I said, and also picnic baskets and that type of thing. So if anyone has some leads for me to move in that direction, I do have sewing machines set up and that type of thing, and I want to start training ladies to actually make these things. So that would be really great.
What's your name again?
Ronal.
So when we're having drinks, and if everyone has any ideas to share with Ronal, please do so. And I do hope we're talking about earlier the end of life stage responsibility. I'm hoping included then in that will be, once you're done consuming this product, please do X, Y, Z with the fabric in order for us to complete that cycle. But thank you very much. Mapasek?
Hi everyone, my name is Mapasek Asitlodi. I work at the Consulate of the Netherlands. My question is directed at you, Deirdre, and I'm inspired by everything everybody has said here today, and what triggered me is, every time I go on Instagram, somebody's traveling, the youth are traveling, they're going places, they're seeing things. And so my question is, what can consumers do to be more sustainable travelers? What practices can we implement? What changes can we make in the way we book accommodation, in the way we actually travel? All those little things. What can we do? Because I heard some of your solutions are, producer orientated, where you can look at localizing your supply chain. But from a consumer perspective, what is it that we can do to be green travelers, if that's a thing?
Oh yeah, very, very good question. So just for myself, there is just so much to do. If you're going to a country and you're traveling, go to tell a story, so that when you come back, you've got your story. It's great going to these amazing big luxury hotels, but have you really experienced the cultural side of what is around you? And so what we do encourage for the green traveler is when you're going, go to make a difference. Look for those local lodges that's owned by, that's not owned by a big corporate or a big cluster of people, but those that are within your local communities that own that specific lodge or B&B, and then go on your local tours. Go and see what the culture is about and adopt and really go and invest into that local economy. I just feel that that is a more wholesome approach when doing those kind of holiday destinations. Don't just look at the fancy glitz and glam of that amazing hotel, but actually go on the ground, go and see and just come back and tell your story.
I do know that in the aviation sector, they're exploring the possibility of sustainable aviation fuel. Not only to obviously make sure that every time you take off and land, it's actually safer, it's a potential game changer as far as employment opportunity right here in South Africa. Just with invasive plants, for example, that never run out because they're always there and they're growing, right? Opportunistically clearing those, just that job can create thousands of jobs in South Africa. The sugarcane industry is sitting with excess sugarcane that they can't sell to Brazil or anywhere else because, quite frankly, it's too expensive for them to transport it. What do you do with that? You turn it into aviation fuel. So in terms of the aviation sector, there's certainly a lot of work being done there within South African continent in making sure that we are addressing those aspects of it.
Just to add to that, I think that is just such an amazing concept to look forward to as tech is changing. Your way of traveling is going to be changing. So really excited for what's to come in the aviation.
Indeed. But thanks. I suppose key to Mapaseka's question is what can we do now while we wait for all of these things to be done? Thank you very much. Thank you, Deirdre Arendse, Weaver's Operations and Performance Manager. I'd like to say thank you very much as well to Tracy Gilmore, who is the Chief Operations Officer and co-founder of Taking Care of Business, and we had a wonderful testimony from one of the delegates here. And Alma, thank you very much for taking the time out and joining us. Alma Stromer is the co-founder of Africa Collect Textiles. There's a lot. there is a lot here, Erika. I didn't even go through half the questions that I did because it was important to see what is being done on the ground by ordinary people, I suppose, in contributing to the circular economy. What were some of your main takeaways?
So I've got 5. Can I zip through that?
Yes,
have we got time? So, I mean, it is a very incredibly complex system, and there were points in the conversation, as there always are in these conversations, where I lost hope. It's too complex. There is just, the odds are stacked against us. How do we ever get through this? But anyway, I pulled out kind of five key things that I think are important to sort of think about. The first actually came from the Weaver video, which is the first step to acting is knowing, and I think that's really important. And Tracy also mentioned the point about it's like that we need to almost crack people into consciousness. So I think from a sort of citizen action point of view, but also from sort of as players in an industry, we need to know what's going on. We need to know what the problem is before we can solve it. The second is that I think that it obviously is that's a global value chain industry, that it is really sort of a complex integrated system with things, sort of dependencies and things happening, because something's happening here because something's happening in the global north. And we need to understand that. But I think the idea of the sort of ecosystem pacts of industry coming together to figure out solutions. It seems like some of that is happening in South Africa in the retail sector. But that is where we need governments. We need governments to come in with taxes and regulations and incentives. And then the third area for me was around the repurposing industry that maybe it seems like there's a huge potential around building. I'm sort of thinking about it as a secondary manufacturing or repurposing on scale. It's about the collection and the sorting, but then building the skills and the capabilities and the production capabilities to repurpose on scale.
Being mindful of Trace's concern around how that is going to impact on the industry and employment here.
Yeah, but I think that even if you think about it locally, so some of the retailers are part of the program, but not all of the retailers. And yeah, so I mean, I think even if there was a way about thinking about what do we do with the waste from the global north in the global south, but in a way that doesn't impact on the sort of primary system. And I think that also talks to the need for the first thing is around producing less. If we were producing less, then that means that you have higher quality garments that people are buying that last longer. That has a huge impact on the system. But then it also tends to mean that those products are more expensive. So how do you produce volume clothing that is more affordable, that is also still high quality? I'm trying to move quickly because I'm conscious of time. The fourth is actually that I think it's a design problem, that it starts with the design of the clothing in the first instance, with the materials that are being produced and the system and the value chain. And then the fifth is around making sort of repurposing and reusing and kind of the long-lasting nature of the clothes that we wear or the fixing of them sexy. And that also is a design problem. It's what the young designers who are standing up are doing that we're talking. And more. I think there's a lot of that going on in our environment. So how do we support those practitioners? And then how does the sort of media, the media industry and the influencers or whatever, profile that so that we start a movement of people who are making those choices as consumers, which I guess takes me back to the point one, which is about knowing.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we are building up to the Co-Create Design Festival, which is on the 7th and the 8th of August. We are at the D School, based at the University of Cape Town. It's all about design thinking. It's going to be 2 days of just incredible, I hope, inspiration, if nothing else, right? That sense of let's look for hope. What are you hoping will be achieved at those 2 days? Or is it too early to ask you that question?
It's probably a bit too...
Your microphone.
It's probably a bit too early. But I think it's going to be, I mean, I think the essence of the topic, the circularity topic, is that we can do blue sky thinking and we can do sort of systems and big thinking, but it is also about getting practical.
Yeah.
And so what we're planning are some masterclass workshops as part of the Design Festival this year, where where groups of people can actually do deeper dives into some of the topics and come up with solutions that they can walk away with and start to practice. So it's much more practical, as well as the sort of theory and abstract thinking.
The numbers will be limited. Do follow the hashtag Co-Create Design Festival hashtag. We'll be sharing details within hours, really, if not days, over how you can enroll and make sure that you join us at the D School. It really, really is going to be fascinating and exciting. I'm looking forward to it, I must admit. Erica, thank you very much. Thank you for that impossible job of summarizing some of the key elements that are coming out here. I meant to tell you about the two wonderful products on display. This is by Moores Design. I'm just going to direct you to their website, which is morsdesign.com, moresdesign.com. It's Cape Town-based, founded in 2015, born out of love for beautiful silhouettes and a passion for sustainable design. The other is Bottle Cap Craft. They manufacture products using bottle caps and wire, and you can go to peek.org.za to find out more details about them, peek.org.za. Thank you to all of you who've joined us here at the Desmond and Leah Tutu Foundation in Cape Town, and for your contributions, and more importantly, the work that you're doing in this space in naturally creating a circular economy. Thank you to people who organized, and most importantly, thank you for you joining us at home, office, on a beach somewhere for this important conversation. We'll see you on the 7th and the 8th of August. Enjoy what's left of your Tuesday. Oh, happy Independence Day to Americans. Happy Independence Day to